If you just went and got like a full hormone panel, that would give you a lot of cortisol, testosterone, estrogen, thyroid. But you can also look at lipid panels, which is another blood draw of looking a little deeper into cholesterol and fats. And there's a lot that we could look at there. That's going to get more less into like the macronutrient side of like protein, carbs, and fats, and more into the actual nutrients or lack thereof, or pesticides, or that's definitely leans more into a quality of life and health, which is very important too. And so that's why
Hi everybody, Jose Luis Morales here. Welcome back to another episode of the Morales Group Show. Today we have a very special guest. He's one of my friends at Collective Genius. We play basketball together here and there in the mornings. And today he is going to be talking to us about how to be healthy, both physically and mentally. He's a health and performance coach. Welcome to the show, Cole. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's an honor to be here. Thanks to everybody listening. Excited to be able to add some sort of value to you guys.
I'm excited to learn about this topic, Cole. And the reason is that there's so much contradictory information on the internet. And even for myself, I get confused sometimes. Like, for example, some people say, oh, it's good to do keto. Some people say, oh, red meats are the devil. Some people say it's good to fast. So there's a lot of contradictory information out there. So I just want to be able to add some clarity to our viewers. The reason is that without health, we don't have a business, we don't have family, nothing else matters. So health is the number one thing. So yeah. Cole, for our viewers that don't know who you are, who is
Sure.
Cole Taylor? And then how did you get involved in this wonderful world of health and performance coaching?
Yeah, so I'll give a little background. I was a college athlete, and so I've loved sports and health and fitness my whole life. It's just been kind of ingrained in me as a tool to perform better on the football field. But after football, I did not use my business degree. I went straight into full-time ministry. And so I was still am actually a licensed and ordained pastor, not as a career anymore, but that was what I did for the first few years of my life was just gave back, poured into people, helped lead them to the faith that I have. I saw that as the way that I could make the best impact. I also grew up in a family of pastors too, so it was kind of built in me. But I very quickly found that there was things that I wanted to talk about that weren't just, did you pray about it and what's God saying? It was like, hey, the reason why you are sick and don't feel good is because you're not taking care of your body. Like the reason why you and your wife fight all the time or aren't happy is because you haven't taken her on a date in 6 months. Like maybe you just prioritize the relationship. Like I wanted to be having real conversations with people and be able to, get on their level and not just ask them to pray about it. And I'm oversimplifying it, obviously, but I wanted to be able to make an impact at a deeper level. And I've gone through a lot of loss in my family from physical reasons. I lost my dad of a heart attack. He lost his dad of a heart attack. I lost my uncle of a heart attack. All the men on my mom's side of the family have all had heart failure as well. I actually lost my mom from birth complications at a young age too. So like most of my family has died because of health reasons. And so on top of my passion for health, because it helped me on sports side, I also am motivated by like, hey, I don't want others to go through that too. And so there was that part of me of like, hey, I want to help people in a different way that pulled me out of, the church world into what I look at as, ministry in a different way now. And so we've now helped over 50,000 clients with our company, made amazing transformations. And it's extremely fulfilling for me to see people not only get fit, with abs and biceps, but more importantly, that to be around for their families, to feel good, to perform good, and to maximize their life.
Yeah, and I think the key is feeling good as well, too, because I see people that are in shape, but they've almost done it the incorrect way. Right. So let's talk about your process, Cole. Let's talk about like if you get a new client, they come to you, maybe they look like me, who's maybe 15 pounds overweight. What is step one? And then, let's just talk about like what the process that usually take your clients.
Sure. Yeah, we have a couple phases to this, but I think the most important thing to understand for us is we don't like to make decisions without data. That's something that we kind of jokingly market to make fun of other coaches and trainers, is that most coaches are just guessing like, hey, you need to do keto because it's good. Well, why? Like, do you know what my body needs? And you made the analogy before we actually started recording of if I took my car into a body shop and they just said, cool, we'll fix it. And I'm like, well, I didn't tell you what's wrong yet. No, we'll fix it. Don't worry about it. Like, if you don't know what the car actually needs and you haven't done diagnostics and assessments and talked to the person and figure out what's been happening, like, how would you know how to fix it? It's the same thing with the body. Is we need to truly understand what's going on. And so we start off all of our programs with testing. We get hormone panels done. We look at their blood work, nutrient deficiencies, metabolic health. We look at their gut health. We get a clear picture of what's going on in here, not just, hey, you look like you need to lose 10 pounds and let's eat less calories and move more. That's the very bare bones, and it's important. But if I truly want to, like you said, feel good and have longevity, I need to understand what's going on under the hood. I don't want a Ferrari with a beautiful paint job that has no engine. I want to fix the inside too. And so our process starts off with, we order testing for our clients, and then we start to build foundations of what we call our start phase. Is let's just get meals and movements dialed in. And then as the testing comes back, we start to optimize around that. So there's the start phase, and then we move into optimization with the testing.
What are some of the things that the testing typically tells you about somebody?
Oh, a lot. Our clients are typically, if they're not entrepreneurs, they're high-level executives or just very driven people that are either competitive, highly driven. We see a lot of high cortisol levels as one of those. It might be low testosterone. It might be insulin resistance issues. Like, we get a whole gambit of hormone health, which tells us exactly how the body is really processing things. Most people understand that fitness at its basics is just calories in, calories out. While that is true, there's a whole nother set to this that actually affects how the calories in and calories out work. Like, if my thyroid doesn't function, my thyroid directly correlates to my metabolic health, which is how I process foods. And so while it is calories in and calories out, if my thyroid doesn't work, my metabolism doesn't work. And so now my calories in and calories out just is very low. And so I have to either move way more or I have to eat way less for my body to be able to actually process that. And so all that to say is, it tells us how the body's functioning. If there's specific nutrients that are deficient in, if it's hormones that are way out of balance, if it's a gut health issue where your body can't absorb specific things, we get a clear picture of what to actually fix. So instead of just putting a Band-Aid on it, we actually can fix the issue that's causing the weight gain.
I love it. Now, let's say for whatever reason somebody wasn't working with you, however, they wanted this information. Is this
Sure.
something that they can go to a doctor, or is there like a certain provider that provides all of these different
Sure.
analysis and tests? Maybe if they wanted to do some sort of self-diagnostic.
Sure. Yeah. At the basics, there's a lot of companies that offer testing and blood work and gut health, and you could just go to your doctor and ask for a full hormone panel, and that'll give you information. I think the cool part about what we do is, instead of just having a doctor that'll say, hey, you're in decent range, you could probably take this medication to fix it, or maybe change some lifestyle habits, you actually have access to someone that can not only give you information, but actually implementation of, now here's what to actually do with this. And from what we've seen is, a lot of people have gotten blood work done, which, by the way, the blood work we do is like 10 times more involved than what a typical hormone panel is going to be. Like, if you go to LabCorp right now, which is a pretty common company, the testing we order would cost you like $2,000 to piece that all together, and we get it at a pretty bulk discount. Or you could just go to your doctor and order a $200 draw, but obviously you get what you pay for, and there's a dramatic difference in the markers they test for. But all that to say is, most people that go get blood work done, that's what they get from the doctor. Is like, hey, you're in pretty decent range, you could probably eat a little less red meat. But what most people don't understand also is, doctors only have like 6 to 7 hours of training on nutrition in their whole medical career. It's wild. And I've had multiple conversations with doctors about this, and they are even flabbergasted of how little they know. And so for us to say, hey, we're going to give this testing and what the doctor's opinion is, as well as with a dietitian and nutritionist and a trainer that are all trained in specific things to look at, and bring that piece together of someone who's helping you focus on actually getting abs or seeing physical results, someone who can see the medical side, but also a dietitian or nutritionist that can see the overall health and fix the foundational issues of your nutrition, not just throw a medication on it. That's the real magic of us, is it's way more in depth, but then you also have a team that can help you implement it. Because most people that even have gone to nutritionists is like, they gave me kind of a meal plan, but like, I feel better, but I didn't really lose any weight. Or I went to a personal trainer, but they don't really know what's going on inside. the key is having all that data and being able to actually implement that into your life. But again, like you said, if they wanted to go to them, on their own, they can order some of this stuff. It just depends on how in depth you want to actually apply that.
You said that sometimes they would have to put different pieces together in order to be able to get the information. Just
Yeah.
for our viewers, in case they were interested, what are some of the
Sure.
different ones? So obviously, there's
Yeah.
hormone
Yeah.
testing, there's
Hormone testing.
testosterone testing,
Mhm.
there's blood
Yeah.
testing,
So it's all like,
urines.
if you just went and got like a full hormone panel, that would give you a lot of cortisol, testosterone,
Everything.
estrogen, thyroid. But, you can also look at lipid panels, which is another blood draw of, looking a little deeper into cholesterol and fats. And there's a lot that we could look at it there. Another big one is gut health testing. There's a company called Viome that does that really well as well, that people could look into. They have different tiers. It also looks in a little bit into metabolic health and cellular health. You could piecemeal a lot of this together. Again, but if you go through those companies, I think, and not discouraging that, like I'm a big fan of a lot of what they do. They're going to just sell you a supplement on the back end. That's really what their big win is. Not tell you, hey, here's a meal plan to actually start fixing this stuff, instead of just throwing a vitamin or supplement or throwing a medication after it. So if you just want the data, it's out there, and you can kind of piecemeal and order a bunch of different testing. You just have to be aware of, like, you're going to get pitched on a supplement or a medication on the back end, because that's where they get paid.
I love it. I love it. Good. Okay, so let's talk about diets or food.
Yeah.
How important is food to your health?
It's not everything, but it's almost everything. There's so many factors that play into this, like your sleep, your recovery, your hormone health, your how much you move, your nutrient deficiencies. But your diet is like the rock bed under all of it, and what I'm consuming and putting in my body. It really shapes all of that stuff. And a lot of the hormone health or nutrient deficiencies that we find too are a result of long-term just not getting enough nutrients, or not eating the right types of food or fueling your body. And so it's a major portion of this. Even when it comes to like workouts versus diet, people say it's like, oh, it's 80%. I think it's probably more, like 90% diet, 10% workouts. Unless you're trying to be like a bodybuilder or professional athlete, then the training gets way more important. But overall, like, food is so important. It's more than just getting the results you want, but if you want to feel good, perform good, what you put in your body is the fuel that determines everything.
Yeah. I had a friend tell me recently, and he said, your food or whatever you eat depends a lot on what they eat. Like, meaning if you're eating red meat,
Yeah,
it depends a lot on what that cow
sure.
was eating before it turned into your red meat. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, so that's going to get more into less into like the macronutrient side of like protein, carbs, and fats, and more into the actual nutrients or lack thereof, or pesticides, or that's definitely leans more into a quality of life and health, which is very important too. And so that's why you hear all these debates of like how the animals were treated, and the hormones that they were fed, and the pesticides, and all this stuff that was designed to keep it around longer and not mold. Like, all of those things are not designed for our body. And so it's definitely something to look out for. I personally think getting the food is the most important, and then getting more specific. Like, in a perfect world, we would all cook our own food, and it would grow it in our house or grow it in our yards. We would be very particular, but that's not realistic for everybody. And so first off, I got to make sure I'm getting like the amounts of food and the right types of food. And then once you've done that consistently, I can start to get more specific of like, I don't want to do, like, I want more range-free chicken, or I want grass-fed beef, or I want organic. Like, but most people try to overthink it, and they're like, they drown themselves in information and never do anything.
I love it. So, what should people be eating? Like, meaning, like, are there certain like core foods that people should be eating if they wanted to be healthier?
Sure. And I think it depends on your definition of health and what their goals are. I think everyone at the very core foundation needs to understand how many calories their body needs to fuel itself, making sure they're not under eating or overeating. That's going to affect how their body not only feels energy wise, but also weight gain, weight loss, muscle gain, fat loss. So a volume of food. but then also a breakdown of macronutrients of protein, carbs, and fats. Of I need a well balanced diet. Like I need protein to make sure that I can fuel my metabolism, I can maintain muscle mass, which people preach that as a fitness thing, but it's not. Like as you get older, if you don't have muscle mass, like that's your bone density starts to decrease, your ability to move decreases, your lifespan decreases. Like it's all important. So proteins, obviously, carbohydrates as well. This gets a very bad rap, especially as keto has grown. But our body was designed to use carbohydrates as fuel. Carbs aren't bad. It depends on the person. Some people, if they've got major insulin resistance issues, might need less carbs, or might have a substitute for that because they've got major issues. But carbs in itself, specifically, carbs that aren't sweets or highly processed, are great for you. Like your body needs fruits, it needs the micronutrients in it, it needs the antioxidants in it. There's a lot of carbohydrates that bring us great value, and so I'm not being a proponent to say just go eat a bunch of chips, but what I'm saying is like your body needs that energy, and that's what it gets fueled. Like you'll notice there's a reason why when people switch to keto, the first like 7 to 14 days they feel like trash. Keto flu is because their body is like, I have no energy source, and now is having to go figure out how to use something else for energy. So proteins, carbs, and then fats. If you want to maintain a healthy metabolism, healthy hormones, if you want to, even like our body processes like eyesight and other things, like you need a certain level of fat. Again, there was a big phase of low fat diets. People started to destroy their hormones too. And so overall balance of quality of food is great, quantity of food, but then also understanding like I need all of these specific macronutrient sources to fuel myself. I'm not a big proponent of like everyone needs this specific food. Like everyone should eat red meat. No, like you don't have to eat red meat. I think it depends on your preferences and what your body needs and what your goals are. Or everyone has to eat this much vegetables. Yeah, I mean that's a little bit more likely. Is we need those micronutrients, we need those greens. Same thing with fruits. But I think the overall answer is you need a foundational balanced diet. And then depending on you is the amounts you need of each of those things and the types. Like for me, I need more red meat because I have a deficiency in iron. And so if I don't eat red meat, I either have to take an iron supplement or I feel tired all the time. And so it depends on the person, if that makes sense. So no specific foods. It's more of like these categories of I need to make sure I'm filling the specific buckets that my body needs.
Got it. What are certain toxins that people should stay away from? Like I've heard like canola oil or some certain type of oil is like really bad for you. I don't know much about it, but
Yeah.
what are things that like you should maybe not eat that are more like universal, or does
Yeah.
it also just depend on the individual person as well too?
Well, so all of it depends on the individual, but there are things that are, all bodies just don't need. The problem is most of our society right now, because of the way that big food corporations are building things, like there's stuff that our body doesn't need in almost everything that you're going to buy at the grocery store. And so it's a dangerous game. Like I see all these TikTok videos or Instagram videos where it's these people like pulling out this thing of food. It's like, this thing's killing you. And I'm like, okay, you could say that about probably every single thing in the grocery store now. So now we're just scaring people. So I said to say is there's things that we don't need. Like you mentioned, there's some oils that are just not great for us. But I would say the easiest thing to step back and look at is how do I buy foods that are very low ingredient. It's the easiest way to look at it. Is like if I pull something off the shelf and it's got 100 ingredients and I can't even understand it, like probably not the best for you. But if I can pull it off and it's like 3 ingredients, it's eggs, it's salt, and it's butter. Like it's your body is much more likely to process that well and be healthy than it is. It's like it's got high fructose corn syrup, it's got all of these oils, it's got MSG, and you're like, I don't even know what any of this stuff is. It's words I can't pronounce. I think more than like scaring people into specific categories of like eat this, don't eat this, it's more of just like let's simplify and eat whole foods and avoid things that have a million ingredients, because those are usually way over processed and there's a ton of chemicals that your body does not need.
I love it. How important is gut health?
Huge. I think it's the most under talked about thing in the health industry, in my opinion. It's something we preach a ton outside of hormone health, because I'll give a couple reasons. One is if you've heard of the Hippocratic Oath, it's what the medical professionals say as they're getting sworn in to, promise to serve and and do what's
Hmm.
best for the patient. Uh, that was named after Hippocrates, Greek philosopher. But he's quoted as saying, "All disease begins in the gut. All disease begins in the gut," and that is 100% real. Like your gut is the foundation of everything, and if out of it flows everything. And so, like most diseases we find are somehow attached to an issue in the gut because your body's not, processing foods properly, or it's not, somehow getting the right amount of nutrients. Like it's a big foundational play in this. Also, on top of just health for performance, and this is why I love it so much and why I've kind of started to begin to nerd out, is our gut connects to our brain via what's called the vagus nerve. Short version is what we eat directly correlates to how our brain feels and performs. And so the types of foods that I consume will determine if I have higher energy one day or less, or if my brain fog is there or not, or mental clarity, or if I wake up groggy or not. And I didn't really believe this that much. I thought it was kind of like a lot of woo-woo mumbo jumbo until I got my gut health tested. And the test we use tells us a list of foods of like red light, green light, don't eat these, eat more of these. And the top two foods that it said don't eat, sweet potatoes and broccoli. And I was like, that's all I eat. Like it's meat, sweet potatoes, and broccoli. And it was telling me that my gut bacteria doesn't respond well to those. And I switched those immediately to like more rice based and some other different like zucchini, squash, green beans for my vegetables. Immediately felt a difference of like, what the heck? Like I'm not groggy in the mornings anymore. Like my mind is clearer throughout the day. Like I don't have as many like bloating and digestive issues. Like it's wild how much just small shifts in the types of foods you eat because of your gut health will affect everything else. So it's gut health is huge.
I love it. And it's funny because my buddy took the Viome test, and with the Viome test, it actually ran the gut health, and then it told them, like, all right, certain things or stay away from them. And
Uh-huh.
then certain foods, like I think for him, it was blueberries were like a
Yep.
superfood, like something that
Superfood. Yep.
basically like energized him. So
Mhm.
I think that if somebody's interested in just at the
Yeah.
minimum getting started with like a Viome test, I think that that would
Biome's
be
great.
super
Mhm.
good for them.
Yeah.
What I did want to ask you is, I keep hearing things about inflammation, how inflammation is one of the worst things that can happen to the body. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
It's so true. Um, Inflammation is really one of the precursors to all disease. It's also like what makes us age and makes us feel tired and get sick. Like it's a pretty dangerous slope. The more inflammation we have, um, and I think it's something that people don't really look at. But a lot of it is fueled by just our habits, one, but also our diet. And so we see this very frequently because of high stress environments, and then people being on the run and not eating good foods, like massive amounts of inflammation in our clients. And whenever you start getting the right types of foods in your system that your body can process well, it's no longer all these junks and processed foods, but also you're decreasing stress levels. Like everything starts to change for the person. A lot of times, like a lot of the weight people are actually carrying too are fueled by inflammation, not even just as much fat, and your body just inflamed. There's times where I'll look like 5 to 10 pounds heavier because I'm under stress and my cortisol levels are so high that it's making my body just puffy and like gross, if you want to describe it like that. But really, it's just inflammation from high stress and not a good diet. And as you fix some of that stuff, like not only are you preventing disease, but you immediately look and feel different. So inflammation is huge.
How do you fix inflammation?
Yeah, and I'll be fully transparent too. Like the team, our team is way smarter than this. Like our doctors, our dietitians, and nutritionists, like they will give you the 4 hour conversation on, why inflammation actually happens and the science behind it. Like I'm very lightly trained in that. I told you this before the interview. Like I have certifications in fitness and nutrition and diet, but I'm not like a master's level nutritionist like our team is. But I like to explain things in layman terms, and I just regurgitate their information back to people. And so fixing inflammation, kind of like what I said, is two parts. It's a what am I putting in, but then also what is my output habit wise. And so whenever you can remove foods that cause inflammation, some of those oils you mentioned, like canola oil,
Cause
cause
inflammation.
inflammation. High fructose corn syrup causes inflammation. but there's also some nutrient deficiencies that can cause that. There is specific types of foods that, if the body doesn't process well, like it's a gut health issue, or maybe it's an allergy issue, all those things will cause inflammation in the body. And so fixing it is, there's some like core tenets that everyone can do, is like remove processed foods, remove some of those oils and high fructose corn syrups and those kind of things, but also, implement habits that are going to decrease stress, get you more recovery, more sleep. But then there's more specifics that, hey, because of your gut bacteria, don't eat this food, or because of your nutrient deficiency, add in this vitamin, and that'll start to shift it. That's the magic again of understanding the data, is, doing the foundational things that work for everybody will get you to a certain point. But if you want to fix all of it, like, you have to actually understand why your body was having that.
I love it. Okay. Let's transition a little bit over to exercise.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I want to do a section on mental health as well, too, because I think
Yeah.
that's overlooked a lot of times, but I think that that's really important,
Sure.
especially for people running businesses, even for moms that just had birth and are dealing with like postpartum or whatever it is. I think that's really important.
Sure.
So how important is exercising? Is that important at all?
Yeah, no, it's very important. And honestly, I get a bit saddened by a lot of these companies that their big marketing spiel is like, lose weight without working out. I'm like, I get it, but working out is not just about getting physical results. And this is the way, like, I like explaining it, is working out to me is like a therapy of sorts. Like, you need to be able to go through that, to be able to make sure your mind and body is healthy. It's a resistance that you're providing to be able to sharpen, or what I like to say, weaponize my body. A lot of times why people are tired is because they haven't moved. And it's kind of counterintuitive to our head, is like, very similar to Newton's law of a body at rest stays at rest. Like, if I'm tired, I'm not going to move, and then I'm going to just stay tired. But once I actually move that and shift out of that, I start moving more, even when I am tired, it actually increases the energy level, and your body responds to that. And so to me, movement is key for overall health and energy, making sure I feel good. Not even the physical side. Like, there's tons of physical benefits if you're going to increase muscle mass, and you are going to increase cardiovascular health, increase heart health. Like, all those are amazing, and more longevity. But for me, like, if I don't move, and now that I understand how consistently it affects me if I don't, like, I am dramatically a different person if I don't move. Like, I have to start my day with some sort of movement, or I'm tired the whole day. And so I think it's important for people to understand, like, remove the stigma that working out is just for people that want to get strong and be bodybuilders and athletes. Like, you need to weaponize your body and decide, like, is my body a tool for me, or is it an anchor that's holding me back? And the more that I can just have some sort of movement, even if it's walking, like, a lot of our clients don't do like crazy workouts. It's just, hey, I'm going to do 10,000 steps a day. Great. You're moving your body consistently. There's more oxygen going through your blood. All these nutrients are better released. You feel better. You're getting different results. And so movement is key to me for looking good, feeling good, performing good. Ancillary benefit is you can build muscles and lose fat.
Yeah. Is there like a certain like type of routine that you recommend?
Yeah.
Obviously, I understand that it's all case by case. Some people may
Sure.
not. Should people be doing some sort of physical activity daily?
Sure.
Should they be doing it 5 days a week at a minimum?
Sure.
Um, I've heard
Yeah.
that running is bad, but I love running, so I don't
So
know.
yeah, again, like you said, it all is dependent on the person and their goals. However, I'm a firm believer that I want to move in some way every day. Doesn't have to be a workout. Like, at least go for a walk. Like, I need something to make sure that I'm moving my body. But when it comes to actual like training routines, you can get by in a lot of ways. I have friends that are in incredible shape that 2 or 3 days a week they do a full body workout in the gym, and they look incredible, and they just move. They walk the other days, and they're playing with their kids and walking their dogs or whatever. Like, you can do whatever you want when it comes to routine, as long as there's a routine. Depending on your goals is where things get really adjusted. If you want to put on a lot of muscle mass, like, you need more volume of resistance to be able to do that. If you want to train for longer distance events, you need more volume to be able to keep up with that. But so it depends on your goals. But someone who just wants overall health, like, just a couple days a week of resistance training, whether that's body weight, bonus points if you're putting some weight, against your muscles. But then the other days, just find some way to move. For me, I'm at the gym at least 5 days a week. It's kind of a mental sanity thing for me too. I will always resistance train at some point, 5 days a week. But then sometimes I do cardio, sometimes I don't. But I'm always tracking my steps to make sure I'm moving. So all that to say is, I think everyone should be moving consistently. The structure of it depends on their goals. But I encourage people to not stress too much about it. We typically start our clients on 3 to 4 training sessions a week starting out. It could be just a 15-minute body weight workout. It could be a full gym workout. And then they do their steps daily. So movement, steps, that's a great place to start. It's like, I just need to commit to a couple workouts a week, and then I need to start tracking my steps. You'll see major differences.
Love it. What are some of the easiest way to track workouts and track steps and track overall performance?
Yeah, and I missed your question about running too. So running's not bad per se. A high volume of running has benefits to cardiovascular health, has benefits to your breathing. Like there's so many benefits, but it also is tough on the joints, and so that's really only like pushback I've heard on like don't run so much, is because that's like you're destroying your knees if you're running on pavement a ton, and it's really hard on the joints, and your body's not designed to run that much necessarily. But there's also a ton of benefits of health in different ways. So if you love it, and that's a great way to keep you motivated to do it, just do it. Like that's awesome. I would just make sure your goals align with that too. We have a lot of clients that want to gain muscle mass and they love running, and we're like, that makes it a little tough. Like you're making yourself have to eat way more food to make up for that. And so it has to align with your goals, as well as there's potential long-term ramifications to a high volume of pounding on the knees on pavement. But your question from there was, sorry, I got distracted by tracking. Okay. So as far as workouts, there's a ton of different ways to track. Like you could just have a notebook and you write it down at the very simplest. We have an app that we give to all of our clients that not only prescribes their workouts, but they can also enter the data of, hey, I did for my push-ups this time, I did 20 reps. And the next time you do the push-ups again, you can say, well, I did 22 this time, and you can track the improvements. I think the overall goal is just having some consistent way to see it, whether it's paper, Google Sheet, an app. But muscle mass is increased by progressive overload. So over time, slowly doing more, whether that's a little bit more weights next time, or one more rep, or a little bit longer pause, or whatever that is. Your goal is just to be improving on each workout. Maybe it's a 5 seconds faster on my 5K or whatever that is you're trying to do. The goal is just to track improvement. Also, it helps you just stay in the fight a little longer. Like as someone who, is not always perfect and is not always motivated like everybody else, having data to look at and something to compete against will help you. When it comes to steps, there's a lot of different ways. I wear like a Garmin fitness tracker. This is where I track my steps. A lot of people have Fitbits or Apple Watches. I'm not a big fan of the ones that come on your phone. Like you can technically track your steps by just keeping your phone in your pocket. Not going to be super accurate necessarily, but there's tons of different ways. So you just need some sort of tracker to look at.
Got it. What about form? Like if they're working out or doing some sort of resistance training, is form important? And also, what is the best way for somebody to learn proper form if they wanted to maybe get better results? Because
Sure.
And I think I'm one of those people that when I work out, I don't know if I have the right form, which could lead to more injury. So if I wanted to learn proper form, what would be the best way for me to do that?
Yeah, there's a couple ways. The best way is always going to have a professional like walking you through it. And so that's the benefit of having an in-person personal trainer, is having someone there to actually like move your body for you and show you the path of the dumbbells, or show you the like where your hips need to sit when you squat. Like I even our clients, like, because we don't do actual in-person sessions, a lot of them that don't have a ton of experience, we recommend like, hey, do you want us to book a in-person like consultation with you with a local trainer to walk you through these movements? If you don't have any experience, like I would recommend someone at least show you through the core movements. I recommend that for anybody, is if they're starting or want to get better at their health and fitness. especially on the workout side, is at least do like a introductory session or two with someone to show you the movements and let you feel what it's supposed to feel like. And then from there, if you already have like at least a general understanding, there's a lot you can do by, having someone explain it to you or watching videos. And that's what we have for our clients too, is it's our team, my business partner, or one of our coaches, in a video demonstration showing the movement, and then visually as well as verbally telling them, here's what to focus on. So like when you get to the bottom, here's what your breath needs to look like, and here's, you need to drive through your toes, and you need to keep your chest up. Like, once you have the basic understanding, like I don't need someone to like actually move me anymore. I just need someone to verbally tell me and say, hey, your back slouched a little bit, and we saw that on film, so just pull your shoulder blades back, that kind of thing. So foundation is you need someone to actually show you so you can feel it and see it. And then from there, you just need to be able to have some sort of feedback mechanism to make sure you're on track.
Love it. Okay. Let's talk about the most important aspect of this. Obviously, we've talked about food, diet. We've talked about like physical workouts. Yeah. What about mental? And I think that this is important for a lot of people, and I don't know if everybody realizes how important this is. If somebody is maybe fit already or in good shape or eating right, but their mind is still not there, what can help somebody get out of a mental rut? Maybe somebody is going through postpartum. What type of advice would you give to somebody in a situation like that?
Yeah. So this one very much depends on the specific person and their situation. A lot of it, the advice I would give is going to come down to actually digging into what's causing that. A lot of the emotions we feel are a result of the programming we have mentally, whether it's a story we're telling ourselves or something we continue to focus on. And not to discount the medical side of things, like there actually is chemicals that are released or not released, and that's what causes depression. But there's ways that we can manually override some of that by what we focus on. I firmly believe what I focus on is what I feel. And so if I think about things I'm thankful for, I think about good things, like I get those positive emotions. If I think about things that are frustrating and stressful, my body responds to that and produces those emotions, those feelings. And so outside of like getting medical help and testing my serotonin levels and seeing if things are working okay, I'm not a big proponent of like antidepressants, but I'm also not here to discount and say they don't work and they're not necessary in some cases. I think for people that are really struggling mentally, it's really, you got to determine where that's coming from. I've gone through a lot of dark seasons. I told you I've lost tons of family members. The only way I've been able to get out of those, especially like the hardest one was losing my dad, who was my best friend, and that was the end of high school. The only way of getting out of those is really diagnosing like what is causing this pain. And I don't mean obviously the external situation, but like what story am I telling myself? What stressors or pressures am I put? Like, a lot of it for me was just a guilt thing. Like could I have helped it? Could I have fixed it? Like I didn't maximize the time. Like I didn't respect him enough. There was it was more than just the grief and loss, because, I'm a faith person. I knew he was in a better place. So there was actually things that I was guilting myself on, and I had to work through some of those to realize like, hey, like it's not your fault. It's not your responsibility. Yes, we can learn from this, but you carrying that guilt does no one any good. And so for me, digging through that, some of that was conversation, some of that was professionals, being able to pull some of that out, was the only way that I was able to kind of like come out of that and start seeing the good and seeing the positive, to where now I can look back and I'm actually grateful. I'm not grateful that I lost him, but I'm grateful for the lessons that I've learned from this. And so to kind of capsule all that in a bow, I think the person needs to just figure out through conversation or through professional. That's why psychologists are amazing, and professionals that can actually dig that, or maybe it's a pastor or a counselor for you, or just a really close friend, is being able to ask those tough questions of, okay, like you're depressed right now. Cool. Zero judgment. I'm here with you in this. Well, tell me the thoughts that are looping in your head. Oh, I'm not good enough and I shouldn't be here. Okay. Like, break that down for me, unpack it. And if you really dig, you'll find that there's a story playing in yourself, in your head. A lot of it's subconscious too, that maybe started at 5 years old, that it's like, hey, this thing happened, I got made fun of for this, and because of that, there's a programming that continues to run. And so people have to be willing to dig and figure out where that program started, so they can start to have that awareness and fix it.
And is that something that your company helps out with as well too, or is that something that they have to go to other professionals potentially to get
Sure.
help for that?
You know, on the health side, yes, a lot of the conversations we have around um, health is very mindset centric first. That's the first thing I preach when I talk to people is, hey, your identity shapes your actions. What I
Mhm.
believe shapes how I behave. If I just try to give you a program, but I don't fix the internal, then it's never going to stick. You're just going to do a program and then you'll quit when it's done and go back to normal. I have to shift who you believe you are so you become a different person. That way, the results and the actions are just a byproduct of who you already are, not you faking something.
Mhm.
And so that's the foundation of what we do. I preach identity a ton. We've got a whole course inside of our community. Our coaches are trained to use that language and talk through that. But also, like if someone's struggling, like, hey, and I'll use my example too. Like I, for years, struggle with ice cream, like maybe a borderline addiction. Like it's amazing, but I like every time I ate food, cravings of ice cream, and like I have to have some. Like I need some sweets. Like that's especially when I got stressed. Like I would turn to a half gallon of ice cream. And there was a period where I was very overweight in life too, and it wasn't until I realized what caused that, and a lot of that was through questioning and people bringing it to my awareness. And for me, that was an attachment I had to my dad. We would get ice cream together all the time. He loved ice cream. We talked about like that was just something we bonded over. And so in stressful situations, subconsciously, that was a way I could rebond to some sort of safety. Once I was aware of that, I could start to put processes in place for that. And so we do that with a lot of our clients is really digging, hey, why is the pizza such a thing for you? Or like why are these late
Mhm.
night cravings a thing for you? Let's dig and figure that out. So on the health side, yes, we're not, proposing to be counselors and psychologists though. And so if someone's having
Mhm.
legitimate like major level depression or high levels of anxiety and stress, like we definitely pass those people to professionals, and I'd recommend you doing that. But if you want to get better results in your health, you want to be healthier, you want to have that longevity, you have to fix the internal first because your outer world reflects the inner world. So we do it, but we're not. That's not our main focus. That's a piece that we focus on.
I've heard of people doing like hypnotherapy, almost like going through a process where
Sure.
um, they hypnotize you and then
Yeah.
almost like help you reprogram your subconscious mind. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it is one of many tools that can allow people to let their guard down a little bit and be able to dig into some of the subconscious programming. I've never done hypnotism. I have a ton of friends who have. I have a ton of friends who even do it and like administer that to people. It's just not been my jam. I'm much more of a maybe it's just because I'm willing to open up and just go there. I don't need someone to like break down because hypnosis, from the way they've explained it to me, is just a way to bring your guards down. They're not making you do something you don't want to do already. It's just removing resistance so that you can fully open up and they can start to work through some of that stuff. For me, I've just been able to like just here's it all. You can have it. Like I'm not perfect. Fix it. Tell me why I suck. I already know I suck. Like just here. And so I don't necessarily need that. And I think most people can. There's different ways around it, but it has been an effective tool, and a lot of people get incredible insights from it. Just like breath work. Breath work is a hugely powerful tool to get out of your conscious brain and start to work through the subconscious. I did a breath work experience that I went through a couple months ago, and I was, we're 40 minutes into this breathing pattern, and I'm like weeping, crying, and like these images coming up. And so there's a lot of tools out there that if you're struggling to actually get to the root of what we talked about, like I don't know where this is coming from, I have no idea, I can't figure it out, maybe a tool like that would be helpful. There's a lot of clients we send them to breathwork practitioners, or we'll send them to hypnosis if they are really having issues and they prefer that. It's great tools to figure out what's going on that you can't actually pinpoint.
I love it. What about sleep? How important is sleep? And how many hours should somebody get of sleep?
Extreme.
And does that vary?
It's extremely important. Yeah, it does vary slightly. There's a small percentage of the population, and I say this every time with a laugh because every entrepreneur I know thinks they're in that small percentage, but they're not. I want to say it's like 6% of the population or something can function on 5 hours of sleep, but everybody else needs at least seven consistently to function normally. Every entrepreneur I talk to is like, no, I'm one of those guys. I can do five. And I'm like, really? And so I always say that you need at least 7 hours consistently. 8+ is where you're going to really start to optimize things. But every like 30 minutes of sleep that you decrease on average decreases your brain performance by somewhere like 10 to 15%. Like I don't remember the exact numbers, but there's a large discrepancy of brain performance to sleep. And so for me, like I've had to like actually make myself begin to prioritize that and think long game of like, I know that I have to get this thing done, but if I keep doing this and I keep allowing myself to function suboptimally over and over again, the reason why I didn't get it done is because of that. And so at some point, I've got to shift this and prioritize the thing that's going to help me get forward. So sleep is huge. Sleep is a big reason why a lot of our clients won't lose weight too. It's not just because they're not doing the program, it's because their body is like in shutdown mode, high stress levels, it won't recover. It's super inflamed. It's not processing foods properly. It's because your body needs sleep to recover and to actually function well. And so to me, it's a massive thing for every part of your health to make sure you're getting enough sleep.
Got it. It's funny because I use the Aura Ring to track my sleep. And I've noticed that when I get a lack of sleep, my resting heart rate goes up higher. And it's funny, I just got back from a mastermind like a week ago, and I had maybe 5 hours of sleep a day, and my resting heart rate would just go up. And the tracking mechanism will tell me, pay attention to your sleep. And I could feel it, which was kind of just interesting to be able to track it, because sometimes you think that you're getting good sleep, but if you notice that certain mechanisms in your body aren't performing at optimum, it lets you know.
Skin temperature increases, resting heart rate increases, your like overall, like, because I usually wear a Whoop band too. Mine's charging right now. It does the same kind of thing, is it'll put your output next to your recovery, and your output ability dramatically decreases whenever your recovery is down. And so like, you running a mile puts you at like a 10 level strain where normally it would put you at a 5. And so it's wild to see like how your body just does not function well when it doesn't get good sleep.
How is that correlated? Because it's funny, now that you mentioned the body temperature, and I didn't realize what it was. I thought I was getting sick, but on the last day of lack of sleep, it told me that my body temperature was 1.5 degrees hotter than it normally is. Yep. Why does it do that?
I don't know the deep like inner working level science, but I do know it's a lot about temperature regulation and homeostasis in the body to keep everything balanced. Your body will prioritize, when it has less energy, the most essential functions. And so a lot of times when people are super tired, the reason why their brain doesn't function well is because it's shoving all the energy into the core organs. And so like it's making sure your heart functions well and blood is getting out, but your extremities start to not get as much as they need. And so skin temperature is like the outer layer of your extremities. It's going to be the last thing that's typically regulated. So people like, there's a lot of crazy stories too of like people not getting sleep for days, and they start to have like just sweats, and like the temperature regulation just gets all over the place because that kind of gets pushed to the side.
Yeah. What about stress? Let's say somebody is dealing with stress. Any tips for people? And then how important is that as well too? Like I hear that a lot of the illnesses not only come from inflammation, but also as a direct result of stress.
Yeah, it's huge. It's another one of those things, just like inflammation or sleep, that's a precursor to most of the things we want or don't want are the back end of our stress levels. Just like I said, sleep sabotages physical results all the time. Stress does too. That mechanism I understand a little more, because your cortisol levels directly correlate to how well the rest of your hormones work, and your metabolism is attached to that. And so your body's not going to process foods properly. It's not going to burn calories properly if your cortisol levels are through the roof. And so just simply muscle gain, fat loss, energy levels, stress is huge. But for someone who wants to be very healthy, like you said, that high level of stress starts to infiltrate into everything. Heart failure is right around the corner with massive amounts of stress. It just puts your body under undue tension that it doesn't need. To fix it though, there's a ton of stuff. Like there's so many factors that play into your actual cortisol and stress. Most of it is just lifestyle. Sleep, it's what you focus on. It's the amount of downtime. It's the way you control your thoughts and your focus. We typically tell our clients a couple things. One is we need to look at your sleep routines. So you need to recover. You need to allow your body to actually come down from that stress and have time to get into that recovery state. Your water intake will play into that. A lot of your food. Some of this sucks because it's a little counterintuitive to people that want to lose body fat. A lot of times we have to make them like eat more food and work out less to get their body out of this stress state. And so they think it's like, no, you're going to ruin my goals. But actually, they end up losing weight faster with more food and less movement because their body actually functions well. And so doing things that will actually give me rest and recovery is the overarching premise. There's also small habits, routines, like we mentioned, of breath work is a big one that can decrease stress, meditation, mindfulness. For me, just taking a few minutes and sitting down and quieting my thoughts and thinking about what I'm grateful for, speaking positive words over myself, breathing, getting present is very practical, hands-on. But it's overall just finding ways to rest.
I love it. What about water intake? You mentioned that briefly.
Yeah.
Is that important? And how much water should somebody have in a day, or does that depend on their body as well too?
It depends on, it's very much a size-based metric. Like someone who's 100 pounds is not going to need as much as, me who's 205 pounds, or a larger man that's 280 pounds is going to need more just because there's more surface area, there's more muscle mass, more fat. There's a lot of things that need to be lubricated, for lack of a better word. And so it's not a person-specific metric. There's a lot of different, like a lot of people just preach, everyone needs a gallon a day. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. I think that's a good starting place. A lot of people also will preach like you need an ounce for every pound of body weight. It's another one. The goal is to make sure you're just drinking water consistently. And to me, a great way to look at that is your color of your urine. So less about measuring and looking at like, hey, is my urine dark or yellow? I'm dehydrated. If it starts to be clear, you're in a good hydrated range. That's something that's, for me, is a very good visual cue. Anytime I'm starting to get tinted, or sometimes it's been bad where it's like brown, that you're very dehydrated and your body is asking you for more water. And so it's super important. It lubricates everything. Your body is like 89% water, something like that, something crazy. I forget the exact percentage. But your body functions off of water. Your fat is metabolized through water. Everything is transported through fluids that are based off of water. You need water to function well. I would just start getting consistent and have a routine. Fun way to do it is there's these big bottles that'll tell you where you should be at time of day wise. And so it's full at the beginning of the day, and it says by 6 a.m. you should be here, 8 a.m., noon, 3, 5. And so that's a fun way to stay on track too.
That's funny. Could you drink too much water?
You can. I think it's really difficult, but there is a state of overhydrated. It's really hard to get there, especially if you're moving consistently. But there's been cases of people that have destroyed their kidneys because they've drank gallons and gallons a day, because your body's just just not supposed to be able to process all that. Yeah, but the really the tough part about that is it's really a sodium and electrolyte balance. What happens is a lot of people will overdo it water-wise, but not get enough electrolytes, and that actually puts them in a kind of a bad spot too. And so when we say hydration, something people just don't think about very much is it's not just water. Water is beautiful and it's great, but you need to look at getting some electrolytes as well, sodium, hydrochloride, potassium. Some of that stuff will actually make you get hydrated outside of just the water. Because it's a balance that you're looking for more than just the water.
I know that this is going to depend a lot on what the results come in. Are there certain supplements that people should be taking on a daily basis? Or is that...
Yeah, so supplements are very, it's in the name, they're supplemental to your diet. The supplement industry is massive, and so, most companies will not tell you that. If you're eating all the things you're supposed to be eating, you don't need a single supplement. However, I look at supplements like running a mile with running shoes or barefoot. It makes it more comfortable, and it makes it easier to accomplish what I'm trying to do. And so for me, I could eat if I'm trying to get 200 grams of protein, I could eat 2 pounds of meat, which would be about 200 grams, or I could eat 1.5 pounds of meat in a protein shake and not have to eat as much meat, and it kind of supplements that. Same thing with we give digestive health and probiotics to our clients. If they were eating perfectly and getting all the nutrients they needed and their body was functioning well, they wouldn't need those. But most people aren't going to do the work to make sure there's probiotics in every single one of their types of fruits and yogurts they're eating, or they're not going to make sure that they're eating enough creatine in their beef, or it saves a lot of time and energy to just supplement that from somewhere else. And so most of our clients, we recommend some sort of combination, starting off of getting protein because you're going to need help hitting that, digestive health, gut health, probiotics, amino acids to be able to supplement some of the recovery. And then from there, it's very person dependent. So some vitamins, but then from there, like if someone's deficient, they might need a vitamin B prescribed or vitamin D or whatever. But at the foundation, most people just need some like gut health and digestive things to help them process the protein they're adding, and then a protein supplement. You don't need pre-workout. You don't need BCAAs. You don't need a lot of the stuff that the fitness industry preaches. Do they help? Sure, there's benefits, but you don't have to do those to be healthy and be fit.
Yeah. What about like there's a guy by the name of David Sinclair, and he talks about like how to like extend the aging process.
Sure.
He talks about like taking supplements like NMN. I'm not really sure what that stands for.
Sure.
Are you familiar with any of his work? And if so, what are your thoughts on some of the stuff that he preaches? Because he preaches fasting, and he preaches that if you fast, that your body goes almost into like a sense of survival mode, and then it produces, I think, these things called sirtuins, which make the body like stronger in a sense. What are your thoughts on, if you're familiar with him, what are your thoughts on that? And then after that, are there any final words for our audience or anything else that you think would be helpful?
Yeah, so I'm not super familiar with him. I've heard the name, but most of the anti-aging people that I've followed or met or connected with or even followed some of their stuff, it's very similar protocols. There's certain supplements you take that are going to give you nutrients that your body's not producing properly. There's certain routines, certain fasting protocols, and they all have peer-reviewed scientific merit. I think fasting is a huge tool for longevity, as well as what they're really describing in layman's terms. It allows your body to heal because it's not digesting during that time, and so it's recuperating and producing the things it needs to be around longer because it's giving that break. So there's definitely benefits to it. I don't know enough of the science or what he's actually preaching to be able to like refute or talk about the specifics, but there's a lot of things that we can do with different habits and different supplements that will help us live longer.
Age better.
What's crazy though, that the science changes every year. Like a new study will come out and a new drug or a new vitamin or a new fasting protocol, and it just accelerates. And so it's an ongoing process because our world never really looked into this stuff until recently. So there's tons of things you can do, but to me, like, that is a thing you focus on once you've built the foundation. Same thing with supplements. Same thing with testing. Like, until you're consistent with moving consistently and eating good quality foods and getting good sleep and water, you shouldn't worry about cold plunging and biohacking and NAD plus and anti-aging and all the testing. Like, you need the foundation first, and then you can begin to optimize. And so I think it just depends on where you're at on the journey. As far as final words, I would just encourage people that fitness is not about abs and biceps, and I think that's a much needed misconception to be refuted. It's more about how am I showing up? Like, what energy am I bringing to my environment? Like, if I'm a business owner, am I bringing the best me to my clients, to my team? If I'm a mom or a dad, am I bringing the best me? And so I don't care if you have abs and biceps, that's a cool byproduct and that'll come. But the thing you should be asking yourself is, what am I missing out on by not being the best version of me? That should be something that, like, you carry around with you, is how can I make myself the best? Not just so I'm around and I can do cool things, but that I can make the impact that I was called to. And that starts with your health. And until I fix what goes into my body and I fix the routines that I have as far as movement and sleep and those kind of things, I will never be the leader or the person that I'm supposed to be, because my body, like I said earlier, is going to be an anchor instead of a weapon. And so if you're wanting to be the person you're called to be and make the impact or make the achievements that you're wanting, it starts with you being the you that you need to be. And if I invest in myself, everything else grows around me.
I love it. Great. Now, Cole, if our audience wanted to get in contact with you or your company or somebody on your team, what is the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so best way would be connect social media wise. My Instagram and Facebook are this handle that, if you're watching this video wise, it's right under my finger. It's at Cole David Taylor. If you're listening to this audio wise, just Cole David Taylor on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn. I would be happy to connect with you in any way. I can put you in our free community that we give away a ton of resources and trainings, and I do conversations like this with experts every week and talk about gut health or talk about anti-aging. They bring their expertise. So if you want that knowledge or value, connect with me on social media. I can get you there. We have a weekly podcast we put out as well called The Starting Line. You could go to thestartingline.fit if you want to learn very specifically about our coaching, but any of those work. Social media, podcast, or thestartingline.fit.
I got it. Awesome. Well, Cole, I just wanted to say thank you for obviously taking the time to share your knowledge with us. To our viewers out there, if you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you feel that this episode will be helpful to somebody, make sure to hit that share button. Once again, Cole, thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. And to our viewers, thank you. And until next time.